Hey, welcome to the Elle Russ Show, where we explore ways to get healthy, wealthy, and wise. With a combination of guest interviews and solo episodes, I hope you will be inspired and motivated to become the best of whatever you are. I'm Elle Russ, #1 best-selling author and subject expert with over a decade of helping thousands of people across the globe. Visit my website, elleruss.com, to learn more about free guides, masterclasses, online courses, and more. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, today we've got Holly Perkins on the show again. I've known Holly for about a decade now and am a proud program participant of her Glutes Project, which is an amazing program she has. But Holly's been an established expert and a thought leader in women's health issues for over 30 years. She's been educating thousands of women through in-person, virtual practice. She's also the author of Lift to Get Lean. And she has been seen in, all sorts of publications like, health, shape, self, live strong, fitness, men's health, all sorts of others. And her second book will be released in early 2006 called Muscle and Bone. So this title is going to help women of all ages understand the importance of musculoskeletal system and also protocols for building strong muscle and healthy bones. We're today going to talk about midlife muscles. And Holly has an amazing 3-day free workshop on this. So, if you're Gen X like me and Holly, you know that walking and cardio ain't going to do it. Never was the thing. And we're going to get into that today. Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. What an introduction. I love you.
Well, I love you too. And I love, I have your Glutes Project, and I just want to let everyone know, Holly's programs are so well produced and so well done, and you just can't fail with any of these if you're trying to get fit. But let's talk a little bit about some of my, a lot of my audience is thyroid focused. Can you tell us a little bit about your thyroid journey? Because that wasn't always perfect, and I guarantee if people just Googled you and saw your body, they would go, oh, she's never had a problem.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Oh wow. Let's talk about this because you and I have had so many conversations. And I will say, Elle, really and truly, you were so instrumental when I felt like my world was falling apart and I didn't even know where to start. You and I had a number of conversations that really turned things around for me. I knew that my thyroid was a piece of the puzzle for all of the crazy symptoms I was having. But because I had gotten several diagnoses, I didn't know what to focus on. And you just were like the light at a very long tunnel and helped me really come to understand the degree of my thyroid dysfunction, which I had no idea, and also potential solutions. So even before we jump into this, thank you. I know I've thanked you before, but I just really wanted to underscore that because you're so brilliant in your conversation around helping women with thyroid dysfunction. And can we just stop for a moment and say, I have this conversation weekly.
Right?
It is really
everywhere.
It is like a full-on epidemic that women are struggling with thyroid issues. My community doesn't come to me for thyroid support. That is a piece of the puzzle that I'm always looking for when I'm working with clients or when people join one of my programs and coach with me. But it is astounding to me that I would say 7 out of 10 women that come to me struggle with thyroid issues on some level. Many of them not diagnosed, many of them misdiagnosed. And it's insane. So I know you asked about me, but I just really wanted to wax poetic a bit about the whole thyroid conversation because if you're here listening to this today, there's a really good chance you're struggling with the confusion around thyroid dysfunction, and we definitely get that. So it was.
I wanted to interject and also say that, one of the biggest tips would be like, let's say someone's doing one of your programs, they're eating right, they're doing all this stuff, but they keep gaining weight, right? If you're doing a modality, right, that is supposed to support like healthy, fat burning metabolism and nothing's working and you keep getting fatter, that is a sign to go get tested. So that's one of the things that, first happened to me. Now, other people sometimes aren't affected by weight, right? It's other symptoms. But when that weight thing comes in, if you tried everything, you've done everything, you're like, God, I keep gaining weight and everything I do doesn't work, that's a really big tip off. So I'm sure that that's another way you might discover that, right? Having clients who maybe are doing all the things, but something's not working. And then that's, thyroid baby.
100%. And I would say, so I've been in the industry for 30 years now. You and I are some of the OGs. There's not a lot of women in our field who have been in the game as long as we have. And the thing I know is, without a doubt, the metrics of programming. And so when someone comes to me and they follow my program, if they are absolutely actually following the program, they will get results. And if they're not, just like you said, that is the tip off that we know something else is at play that we've got to diagnose, because if you follow my program, you will get incredible results. You will become more muscle and less fat. You will feel better. And if that doesn't happen within 2 to 4 weeks of being in my program, I can spot it very quickly. And
Yep.
so, yeah, the inability to lose weight and or following the program and not being able to lose weight and or doing all of the things and gaining weight are such indications of thyroid dysfunction. And now for me, that wasn't the case. So I really was at the peak of physical fitness. I really was performing at a very high level. My body fat was very impressive. I was super lean. This was in my early to mid 40s. And all of a sudden, the rug got pulled out from underneath me of crippling, debilitating fatigue. I felt I needed to go to bed for a year. It was deep, deep, deep. I'm not just tired. I mean, this is really dysfunctional fatigue, accompanied for me with zero appetite. And so I lost weight. I didn't gain weight because of these symptoms. I ended up losing weight and getting super lean as a function of it, which isn't normal for thyroid people, but it was largely because of the loss of appetite. And so thyroid's so murky. Thyroid dysfunction can show up in so many different ways for different people.
Yep.
And, as I always say, if you really are following any program, whether it's mine or someone else's, and it's not working, that's when it's time to really get a second opinion or get some labs and look closer.
Yeah. And also, let's just jump real quick before we get into, midlife muscle mastery and all of this stuff. The okay, so when we're talking about thyroid health, the other thing too is like if you can't gain lean muscle mass as well, that's an issue. But let's just talk about the 40s because you and I are a little bit beyond that now. But this is when it really creeps in, and you might think something's a thyroid system, like a thyroid symptom, like brain fog, when in fact it's low testosterone with perimenopause. And so I know from personal experience, and I've obviously expressed this to my audience, I cannot. Wow, the benefits of HRT in how that has worked for me. And one of the reasons I knew is because I am a thyroid expert and I knew my thyroid was fine. And I started to get general malaise. I started to have issues focusing where I just didn't care anymore about any of the things I was doing. And I couldn't focus and I couldn't gain lean muscle mass no matter what I did, man. And it was really testosterone that shifted that for me. So again, it may not even just be a thyroid issue. It could just be a perimenopause, menopause issue, and why it's so important to check those hormones and make sure you get optimized in whatever way you feel comfortable, whether that's doing, acupuncture and herbs or natural stuff, or whether that's going on HRT, because that also can really hinder just by lack of progesterone and everything. I mean, I started to get fat around the middle again and, all sorts of other stuff where I'm like, what's going on? This is not thyroid. And it wasn't. It was perimenopause. So just wanted to see what thoughts you want to share about that in your own personal experience.
Yeah. I mean, again, you and I walk the same line. What was really surprising for me as I was navigating this, you helped me get my thyroid under control. And then just like you, I continued to have symptoms for a very long time before I realized it was this trifecta of estrogen, testosterone, and thyroid. And I think humans in general have a tendency to want to pinpoint one problem. The problem is my thyroid. The problem is my estrogen. The truth is they interplay. And so what I found out was that, yeah, my thyroid labs were looking mostly normal, but they got really good when I got my testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen. Those three really optimized. And then the thyroid was so much happier. And what I found out was that once estrogen, testosterone, progesterone were where they needed to be, I didn't need as much thyroid support.
There
My
you go.
thyroid calmed down because they all interplay. And without a doubt, this is big stuff. So if you're listening and you're over the age of about 35, whether you believe it or not, whether you're having symptoms or not, you are entering into perimenopause. And all that means is that your hormones are starting to fluctuate. And in my experience, it may not look like typical hormone symptoms. My clients come to me and they're dealing with allergies or eczema or migraines or lack of appetite or IBS, whatever it may be. And ultimately, those aren't your typical perimenopausal or premenopausal symptoms, but they are indicative of your hormones being off because of this life stage. And so what I teach very directly is to help women feel better today, look better tomorrow, so that they can stay in the game of life, out of the rocking chair in the years ahead. And while you are addressing thyroid function with Elle or with a different provider, it's so important to also be fortifying your physical body so that you are at least doing the work from a mechanical perspective. For example, we know through research that the appropriate strength training protocols improve your inflammation, help you to fight inflammation. And we know that's a piece of the puzzle here in everything that we're talking about. And so I really help women learn how to strength train right so that they can improve their resilience and their inflammation, but also to improve lean muscle mass, because that's going to improve your energy. And lean muscle mass is a powerful way to address body fat so that you can become more muscle and less body fat at any body weight. I really, in this life stage, I encourage women to really keep an eye on the biggest mistake I see, which is focusing on your weight and continuing to try and lose weight. If your primary target is weight loss, that's adding to your problems, whether it is 100% thyroid or something else. If you keep trying to focus on weight loss, it's going to get you into trouble. And that was something that I had to come to terms with in my early 40s. And so I really help women put all those pieces together so that biologically they feel better. Their biological markers are better. And oh, by the way, when you introduce strength training the right way, that helps to optimize estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and thyroid hormones.
Yeah, I was just going to say the fitter and the better your diet is going to just help you through this entire perimenopause, menopause journey. It's worthwhile to do it now, and it's never too late. I also just want to say this on the weight loss. We already know from the Biggest Loser shows and all of this stuff that the weight on the scale doesn't matter. You are really got to look at the body percentage fat because wow, what a difference that makes. I am the same, like for example, I was the same weight, but different body percentage fats, totally different look, unbelievably different look. So it wouldn't have been healthy for me to focus on the weight at that time. I could go, oh, I'm 115 pounds. Yeah, but if you're 35% body fat, you know what I'm saying? Or you're 30%
Yes.
body fat. So can you talk a little bit about why that's the marker maybe people should be more focused on versus the actual number? Because someone who's weighing, let's say there's a tall woman and she's 180 pounds. We've seen the difference in those photos of her at a certain body percentage fat versus another.
So huge. So in my 3-day free live training, Midlife Muscle Mastery, which starts September 18th, I'm going to be going over the 4 keys to better body composition, because exactly what you're saying is so right. As part of one of my programs, when women come to me, I have them my first choice is for them to get a DEXA scan for body composition. And some people aren't able to do that, so we will get an in-body type scan. My point is to say, I actually collect real data based on what's going on underneath the surface. What is the percentage of lean muscle mass to body fat right now at your current body weight? And it's astounding when I see clients come in, women come in to work with me of all different shapes, sizes, and ages. it's astounding to see, just like you said, the woman who comes in who maybe she's taller or maybe she's heavier or maybe she's not tall. She is heavier, but she's got a lot of muscle. It's wild to see the difference in body fat percentages and lean muscle mass percentages. I have so many women that come to me that are at a pretty healthy weight who, if you were to look at them, you would say they are in good shape. They work out 3, 4, 5 days a week. They consider themselves fit. But when we look beneath the surface, their body fat is right on that cusp where if they're 1% higher, they enter into the territory where they are at an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, dyslipidemia, all of those diseases of aging that really do threaten the quality of your life. And until you look beyond body weight and you look at what's going on underneath, you don't really know where you are. And it's so critical to get that data, but to also be following a program that is focused on helping you become more muscle and less fat at any given body weight.
And we've probably had this discussion before. But I want to just stress the importance. And, I had this conversation many times over the years with different people about the importance of organ reserve, meaning the older people that break their hip don't go to the hospital and die of a broken hip. They go to the hospital and they didn't exercise and work out and challenge their lungs enough and they get pneumonia and now they don't have the strength to deal with that and then they die of pneumonia, right?
Mm.
You wake up in the middle of the night, you trip over the cat, right? All of these things. And then, so mobility and strength training. But again, let's talk about the muscles and osteoporosis and stuff because, right, it's organ reserve. If you're not challenging the muscles, right, to then the bone is going to be like, well, whatever, I'm going to give up, right? So can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I think that is so much more than a physique, which we all want, and that's great. But this is really about longevity and organ reserve, which is just like a critical.
So huge. Yes, I love this. And again, in my 3-day free life training, Midlife Muscle Mastery, we're going to go over this in detail, where we talk about the interplay between the muscular system, the skeletal system. There is such interplay in our medical fields. We refer to that as the musculoskeletal system because there's so much interplay. And what a lot of women don't understand is that, yes, nutrition, calcium, and mineral intake through diet is very important for strong bones. But a stronger factor is your physical activity. A lot of women don't realize that the pulling and pushing of muscles against your bone is one of the most powerful ways to stimulate the osteoblasts, which are the bone-forming cells in your bones, to improve bone strength and bone density. So many women these days are still going towards stronger bones and or avoiding osteopenia, osteoporosis through nutrition. And while that's valid, there has to be this other piece of the puzzle to really keep I think organ reserve is the perfect terminology here because your bone mass, the actual weight of the bones that you have right now, maxes out between the ages of 18 and 30. So your maximal bone mass has already happened. And from 30 on, it's about preserving that organ. Your bone is an organ, and it's about preserving it. We want to preserve the mass that you have while we also use strength training and just nutrition to keep the bones strong and dense. Those are 3 very different aspects of bone health that not a lot of people are talking about. And so getting your strength training right is critical because if you're not doing the right workouts, you can actually be harming your muscle mass and your bone health.
Yeah. And a perfect example is my mother, who has eaten perfectly her whole life. Broccoli almost every day, right? Calcium pills, the whole thing. Never smoked, never drank, everything. But you know what? Never lifted a weight. And where we are now, osteoporosis, right? So
Yeah.
again, nutrition is one component, but if you're not challenging the thing, right? So this is like, please, guys, don't just think you can pop some calcium pills and eat broccoli and get away with this, right? So this is just
Yeah.
and I just don't think people understand, right, about that. And so anyway, thank you for clearing that up and adding to it. What are I think we know the answer to this, a lot of people, but describe to us why strength training impacts metabolism, right? The ability for your body to really do its job in burning fat and energy levels and overall health. I mean, it seems obvious,
Mhm.
but it's not so obvious.
Well, it isn't. It isn't. It's actually quite complex. So there is a common thought that when you focus on building lean muscle mass, it speeds up your metabolism. And in the grander sense, let's say from the 10,000-foot view, that is true. But that's actually not the value of strength training, because when we look at the nitty gritty of it, increased lean muscle mass doesn't spark your metabolism to quite the degree as we want to believe. And I struggle with this every day because yes, it does improve your metabolism, but it's not this massive percentage that it actually increases the basal metabolic rate or even what's called your TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. So on the one hand, it's important for stoking the metabolism. But the truth is, the bigger issue is that when you focus on building lean muscle, it is improving so many other aspects of your health to optimize your biology in general. So strength training as an activity, whether you build muscle or not, right? Let's just say you go to the gym 3 days a week and you pick up moderate weight load weights and you're doing 12 to 15 reps. You're not working super hard. You're kind of phoning it in. Your doctor told you to strength train, so you're doing it. You may not be building muscle. In fact, you probably aren't building muscle because it's actually quite hard to build muscle. But simply by engaging in the activity of strength training, you're improving how your body regulates glucose and how your body manages the carbohydrates that you eat. That in and of itself can have profound implications on your ability to manage body fat. And this could be a deep conversation all about chemistry, and we can certainly go there and talk about the various markers and cortisol and all of that. But I will argue strength training as an activity, first stop, is so important to managing your body composition as you get older and maintaining the muscle that you have as you get older. Because if you don't maintain it at the very bare minimum, because of sarcopenia, you are losing muscle mass every single day
Yep.
simply by aging. And so it's absolutely critical to maintain the muscle that you have at the very bare minimum. Now, I'd rather have the best case scenario where we change your programming and you're actually building some muscle beyond where you are, because that is where we start to see bigger improvements in terms of how it can manage your body composition. Because number one, you're going to move better during the day. The more muscle you have, the more likely you are to be more active. And the more active you are, the more calories you expend during the day. And that's where we really start to see a bigger change in body composition because of that calorie deficit or even calorie maintenance. And so, the simple sort of like great headline you'll hear in the media is build muscle to stoke your metabolism. And I think that's attractive for people, and that is true on some level. But when we peel the layers back, there's
Yeah.
so many bigger, more profound reasons to build muscle.
Let's talk about mindset and body transformation. I can say right now that, when I look back, I have this reel on my Instagram where I show a photo of me from 1819. I'm bloated. I've got moon face. I'm clearly hypothyroid, like, in hindsight, right?
Yeah.
And I talk about how then I just thought this was me. I'm big bone. This is how I am. Other people are luckier, all this kind of stuff. Now, granted, we're all different shapes and sizes, but I I never I almost want to cry because I just never thought then that I could be where I am now. Do you know what I mean? Or where I was, like whatever, before thyroid problems too, I was exactly where I am now. I'm pretty much the same as I was before I started having thyroid problems. That was at 30 and I'm 52. So it's achievable. But man, when I look at my old body, like growing up, I felt like I was just bigger than everyone and this was just me. Now, granted, that would be a sign, but I also wasn't working out and lifting weights to know that it might have been a thyroid problem. But let's just talk about mindset because I think a lot of people think this is just me. And I would just say, well, you know, perhaps you had the wrong program, perhaps you had the wrong dietary strategy, and you've got to keep going because there's an answer here.
Absolutely. And I think it's normal. We've lived within our bodies for so long, right? And our mind is tricky. It's so normal to feel like this is me. You know, as always, Elle, I have a storyline that mimics yours almost exactly. I remember in my early 30s, a client and I were talking and, she looked at me and she's like, well, you're big boned. And I remember thinking to
Ouch.
myself, am I big boned? Right. And it wasn't until years later that I got all this straight, similar to you. I'm like, I am so far from big boned. I just was bloated
Right.
and holding a lot of water. I had a lot of inflammation. I was training all the wrong ways, doing way too much intensity, eating way too few carbohydrates for my activity level. And the farthest thing I was from big boned. And so here's what I want to say. Regardless of what you think you are, regardless of where you think you are and the body that you're in, the real question is, what do you want? Because I promise you, after being a coach for 30 years, focusing on women with a degree in exercise physiology and nutrition and a lot of advanced certifications, I promise you without a doubt that you don't have to stay where you are. And that if you want to be more energetic, without a doubt, that's easy. If you want to be fitter, without a doubt, that's easy. If you want to become more muscle and less fat, that is an option for you. And you might be sitting there right now listening to me saying, yeah, easy for her to say, you don't know my circumstance.
Right.
But the truth is, I've coached thousands and thousands and thousands of women over the past 30 years. I've seen everything. And you right now, if you took a moment, could look around you or get on the social medias and you could find 10 women just like you who have turned it around and who have become either super fit or super lean or super healthy. And so if we have those examples of women out there in the world who have done it, that is proof that you can do it too. And so it really becomes less about what you are and the body that you're in, because the human body is wildly capable of adapting and transforming if you give it the right parameters.
I love that. Let's talk a little bit about some of these examples, because what we're really talking about here is everybody, you got to get into this 3-day free event called Midlife Muscle Mastery with Holly. You can go to hollyperkins.com/L. I will also put the link in the show notes, and I'll, of course, send out emails and stuff alerting to you guys to it. Let's talk about some examples of some of your clients and how examples of how this program has transformed the lives of past participants.
Oh gosh, where do I begin? There's so many of them. So
Let's give your worst case scenarios, the one that came in and were like, impossible for me
okay.
to do.
This is I love, 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 love this story. Shout out to my beloved Karen. She has given me, she's given me the rights to tell her story because it's so unbelievable. And when you come to the free day training, she's actually one of my case studies I talk about all the time because her story is so stinking powerful. So when she came to me, she was in her early to mid 50s and she had had a history of being very active. There were times in her life where she was fit. She had worked out with personal trainers. She took her fitness and her nutrition very seriously. But in the past, I don't quote me on this, but I think she had been struggling with debilitating back and neck pain for 8 to 10 years, to the degree where she had had to give up a lot of her physical activity and strength training. Doctors were giving her shots in her back and her neck that were not making a difference in her pain. And she got to the point where she just didn't even really know what to do. I feel so very lucky, and I'm so thrilled that she had an open mind and she came to me for coaching. She worked with me inside of one of my programs called the Body Composition Project, and I got her on my program along the lines of everything that we've talked about here today. So within 5 months of the right strength training protocol, paired with the right nutritional protocol, and of course, the right cardio programming. I talk about the trifecta of body transformation. You really do have to have strength and conditioning, nutrition, and cardio. Those 3 programming variables really do need to play nice together. And so I got her on that nice little playground. And within 5 months, according to a DEXA scan, keep in mind a DEXA scan is a medical x-ray that has a margin of error of less than 1%. It's as accurate as we can possibly get right now. Her DEXA scan showed that she had lost, I think it was 21 pounds of body fat, gained 4.6 pounds of lean muscle, and her back pain and neck pain were gone. Gone in 5 months. Not a shot, no physical therapy, simply from the appropriate strength training, the appropriate nutrition. And she continued on after that, and her metrics improved even more so. I don't have this front and center, her exact metrics, but when you come to the free workshop, I go over them in detail and show her DEXA scan. It's really powerful. Her bone mineral content, which is BMC, that's the weight of your bone mass, improved, which we don't usually see very often. But again, her DEXA scan showed this. And so she's a woman who is like that typical woman. She really was trying so hard. She, in some ways, was doing everything right, according to what they would tell you to do, and really turned it around both from a body composition perspective, but as you can imagine, she looked very different. She had lost 21-ish pounds of body fat, so she was 21 pounds smaller. And even though she gained nearly 5 pounds of muscle, that muscle gets spread throughout your body, so it doesn't make you look bigger. You can gain 8 pounds of muscle and you're not going to look any bigger because it's spread across a person who's 5'2" or 5'3" or 5'6", whatever your height is. But it really, I would say to date, is still one of my top 5 best transformations, because it wasn't just about getting leaner and looking great in a bikini. It really was about getting out of pain and having this renewed sense of life and being able to be active in her body again.
I love that story. Any others that sort of shine out to you as maybe an example to use? I mean, I know you've got so many, but
Yeah. There's another that comes to mind that is similar but quite different that I think really was very chilling for me, and I think sobering when people hear this story. I think it was very sobering for the participant. A woman came to me last year, similar. She had been really working hard to improve her body composition, and she had been on a fitness journey where, gosh, I think she was working out like twice a day some days. She was really an avid fitness enthusiast, gym goer. Anyone who knows her would say she's the fittest of the bunch. And if you saw her at the grocery store, you would say she's fit, she's at a healthy body weight. She really looked like the picture of what a lot of women would want to achieve. So she had been on her own fitness journey, and technically her goal was to increase her lean muscle mass. So many women are finally hearing that message and, picking up the charge to really actually improve their lean muscle mass. So after about a year of effort, she got a follow-up DEXA scan and found out that she had actually lost muscle. So she spent an entire year on this journey to improve her muscle. She was, quote unquote, doing everything right, but she actually lost muscle.
how'd that happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can dive into exactly, the different aspects of it, but here's what I would summarize for the person listening, because I think that this is, like I said, it's very sobering for a lot of women. They're like, but don't I just have to work out more and harder? Don't I just have to lift weights? And the answer is yes and no. There is an art and a science to actually building muscle, especially for over 40. It gets, as you said, Elle, it gets harder and harder to build muscle, full stop. Then if you've got any hormone fluctuation or any insufficiencies, it's harder. And then if you have thyroid issues, it's even harder. So it's like 3 marks against you when it comes to building muscle. Therefore, your program variables have to be right. The type of strength training, the frequency of strength training, the kind of exercises that you're doing, and more than anything, your nutrition. Because we know, like without a shadow of a doubt, when you look at the research, there was a very famous research study by the U.S. Army Research Division. And I didn't get the exact title exactly right. I link it to a lot of my podcast episodes. And we could put the link actually all in the show notes here. But there was a very important research study from the Army that showed with minor caloric deficit, I think it was 500 calories a day, which is a minor calorie deficit. The participants in this research study lost weight. But when there is the minor calorie deficit with a specific kind of physical conditioning programming, generally when you lose weight, 25% of the weight lost comes from muscle. And in my experience looking at DEXA scans, it can go up to as much as 30%. So to put that into numbers, if you are following a certain protocol and you're quote unquote losing weight, if you lose 9 pounds on the scale, there is a very good chance that 3 of those pounds came from muscle. And that underscores the importance of your programming variables. Now, I do like a calorie deficit, but it's when someone wants to get leaner. Not everybody wants to burn off body fat. Some people just want to build muscle. But your nutrition really needs to be around calorie maintenance, energy maintenance each day, or a minor caloric deficit alongside the right strength training parameters. And again, it's like, I hate to get into this, I'm right, you're wrong. I think a lot of fitness experts, especially on social media, love to call each other out. And I've got the right protocol and your protocol is wrong. And I don't like to do that. But what I have found with women over 40 is that when we look at strength training protocols, if you are doing more than 12 reps in a set, it gets exponentially harder to actually build muscle. And that's a whole podcast episode in and of itself. And I don't want to go there on this episode. I do go there on my podcast because, there are women out there that are doing it at 30 reps per set. And they would say, because of time under tension, et cetera, you can build muscle under all rep ranges. And we do know that's true in male research participants.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that for women over 40, certainly around the menopausal years, beyond what the research says, beyond what any other expert, if they want to call me out on this. In my own practice after 30 years of coaching women, what I have found is it's really hard to build muscle if you're doing more than 12 reps and if your calorie deficit is too high.
Very fascinating. That's really interesting. Another reason to jump in on this 3-day free event, Midlife Muscle Mastery. You've already, chatted about a few things that you're going to go through in this 3-day event. And it starts on September 18th, correct? 18th,
Yep.
Correct. And then it's 3 days. Is it 18, 19, and 22nd or 18, 22nd, and 23rd?
You got it. We actually split the days up. So what I found is, I know there's a lot of these like free workshops out there where, kind of other experts will just deliver a bunch of like dummy, useless information and it's really kind of wasted time. My workshops are actually like mini college degrees. You're going to walk away from each workshop with like your mind blown and so much information. It takes a few days to process it. So I don't like to do the 3 days in a row. I split them up so that people can come to day one and then take the weekend to digest it all, watch the recording over and over. I provide some homework, and then we come back 5 days later, and then we come back 2 days later. So it's the 18, 23, and 25. It's a Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. And that way, it just kind of allows people to catch up on the recordings if they can't show up live. And I've just found that it ends up educating better people. It educates people better this way when I split it up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just got to sink it in. You take a minute, do some inventory, and then come back and get some new information. What else would you like people to know about this 3-day event?
Just come. It's totally free. hollyperkins.com/Elle. It really is an opportunity to learn what needs to happen so that you can become more muscle and less fat. And while this workshop is called Midlife Muscle Mastery, I actually do have a lot of women in my community that are 35, 30 to 35. They're not quite in that midlife. And I
Mm.
also have a lot of women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. In fact, one of my favorite community participants just turned 81 this year, and she's building muscle and deadlifting in her living room like a champ. And so it really is open to all fitness levels, all ages, whether you are a fitness enthusiast who's struggling to build muscle, or if you're someone struggling with thyroid issues and you're exhausted and you don't know where to start. That's something, Elle, we haven't talked about. That was a big piece of my journey, which was when I should say before I got my thyroid and my hormones really resolved, I found that my strength training protocols had to be different than they are now. I had to start a bit more gently because I would get an autoimmune flare and I would be sore or exhausted for days after the smallest workout. And so if you're listening to this and you're in that really troublesome stretch before you've got it resolved, where even gentle workouts tend to tax you, that is something we're going to address as well, because so many women have autoimmune disorders, whether it's linked to thyroid or not. And we do have to approach strength training and nutrition a little differently so that you're able to ease in so that you can actually start feeling better tomorrow instead of doing a workout and then having to suffer through 3 to 4 days while you recover to regain your energy and start again. And so even if you are just wanting to feel better, that is something we talk about too.
That's a good point. And I feel, this goes to the whole thing, like where, you get the person who's like, all right, I'm gonna do the boot camp. I'm gonna divorce my husband. I'm gonna quit drinking. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, you're like, let's, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
start a YouTube channel to keep myself accountable. You're like, you're gonna lose. You're gonna absolutely lose on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Um, Even with myself, because I have a hand disability. So there was a moment last year where I had such a bad flare up. I really couldn't even use my arms for 3 months, which means I certainly couldn't really lift a weight, but I knew I needed to do that. So when the flare went away and I started to get back into it, look, I started with 5-pound frickin' weights. Okay.
Hmm.
Like I did dumb no brainer just because I didn't want to be sore as hell for 3-4 days and suffer
Mm,
from that, because I knew already from the past that would happen, right? So I just
mm,
eased into it and didn't have to take any breaks because I eased into it, right? So
yeah.
there's such a benefit to that, because you might get turned off, or then you're out of commission for 4 days and you're like, oh man, and then you're maybe not motivated to get back in. So I myself, even though I've been doing this a long time, like I ease into it too when I have to come back, because it's just the suffering it's not worth it.
It's not. And I think, gosh, there's, like you said, there's so many of these boot camps and challenges where, or even like, the 75 hard notion. Life is hard enough. And if you're a woman and you have a family or a job or your life is stressful at all, I'm sorry, but like the last thing I need is for some hard, tough challenge. That's just my personality. I think if anything, you should do something today that makes you feel better immediately. When I leave my workouts, the clouds clear, the sky brightens up, the sun comes out, and I feel amazing. And that is what your physical activity should do for you. It shouldn't make you build self-discipline so that you can white knuckle through difficulties and discomfort and soreness. I think like that is such old school male-led thinking. And if you're the person who just loves that challenge, totally cool. But in my experience, most women are already suffering enough. The
Right.
last thing we need is like a grueling workout that makes you hate life the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. Just ease into it, guys. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I even noticed that when I get back into it, let's say after the flare up and I, do a couple days of even just dumb 5-pound, but, just for my arms, I, I see the difference immediately. I see it. I already see it in the mirror. It doesn't take long and it doesn't take much. So ease in. You're not going to get great benefits right away because you decided to go ahead and lift 30 pounds when, you haven't done anything in a year. That's going to hurt. That's going to be brutal the next day.
Yeah.
I love this. All right. So everyone, 3-day free event, Midlife Muscle Mastery, hollyperkins.com, HOLLYPERKINS.com /L to sign up for this. And I'm so glad you're doing this. This is so needed, and I'm going to be on it too. So I'm going to definitely be chiming in and learning from Holly as well. Is there anything else or you'd like to say about this, or what message do you hope women take away from this midlife muscle mastery?
I just hope women come and realize that it doesn't have to be so hard. It really doesn't. If it's been so hard and you're trying so hard and doing everything, that might be a clue, because the truth is it doesn't need to be that hard. It really doesn't. In fact, and I think, Elle, you're probably the same way, I have found that the more gentle I go about my programming and the less I do, the better results I get. And I see that with my clients as well.
I absolutely agree. And you know what? I should have brought up this up at the beginning, but I want to touch it now on the end. All right. We are in the era of GLP-1s. Okay. That's fine. I don't judge it. I know people who are doing it, whether it's microdosing or whether you are obese, and this is something that you've chosen to do. But see, now you're going to need Holly, right? Because there's a problem here with these GLP-1s and the people and their muscles. And so it's really important. You can't just do a GLP-1 and sit around. You'll sit around and lose weight. But again, you are hurting yourself if you're not taking up some strength training. Can you touch on that? Because this is a new phenomenon we're dealing with.
Oh my gosh, this is so big. I did a podcast episode on it and I love
Okay,
this
great.
conversation. Love this. So yeah, I don't want to take any sides on the GLP-1 conversation. I think that when you use them the right way, they can be helpful. But here's what's funny. They do the same exact thing. They are providing the exact same stimulus that if you strength train and ate the right way, you would have the same exact outcome. So
That's
save
right.
yourself some money and
Save yourself some infection spots. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like strength training improves glucoregulatory control. And ultimately, at the root of GLP-1 agonists, that's what they're doing, is they're improving glucoregulatory control. And that is why people lose weight. But just like I said earlier, if your calorie deficit is too large, and I'm seeing in my practice with clients that come to me who have done the GLP-1 protocols and their calorie deficit was so big that they lost weight quickly. And, listen, that can be very thrilling. That can be very exciting. I think that there is a hit that you get when you lose weight, especially if that's your goal, which would be why you're going on these medications. And so a lot of women get the thrill of the weight loss. They lean into the loss of appetite. That calorie deficit grows. And when that calorie deficit grows beyond 500 calories a day, if you are not fiercely going after your strength training and making sure that your macronutrient distribution is right, you're going to be one of those people who lose 30 to even 35% of your weight loss as muscle. And that is like stealing from Peter to pay Paul, right?
Right. And
Or
it's
cutting
skinny
off
fat.
your nose. Yes, you end up being skinny fat. And so ultimately your metabolism does slow because you're losing muscle, and muscle is an incredible part of your metabolism. And so in the end, you might be smaller. You might be in jeans that are 2 sizes smaller, but are you stronger? Are you more resilient? Are your bones healthier? Are you more fit? Can you jump up and run 3 miles and feel awesome? Can you deadlift even 45 pounds, which everybody should be able to do that? And so I'm not against them, but if, I just think it's wasted energy. I think that it's a waste of money. And I think that the pharmaceutical companies have really gotten the best of us because weight loss is very attractive and very exciting for a lot of women. Really and truly it is. I don't know why, but we've got this skinny obsession. And I'm really hoping we can change that conversation, because I promise you, if a year from now or 9 months from now, you could be smaller, tighter, leaner, fiercer, stronger, more resilient, a powerhouse at the same size, wouldn't you choose that rather than being the same size, but weaker, with less joint integrity, with less muscle, feeling more tired and a slower metabolism? That's the choice you have.
Yeah. And so if you're on GLP-1s, jump in here if you haven't hit weights, because you need to know what Holly's going to teach. And also, if you were thinking about GLP and thought, oh my gosh, this is my only, but I can't afford it or whatever, you don't need it. Get into the program. And this is something you can achieve on your own. But again, no judgment to the people that need that extra kick of help, but just know that you might be taking 5 steps backwards, right, in your pursuit of that weight loss, like we're talking about with the muscle. So thank you so much for I'm glad I brought that up. I just, it's been such a thing. And so I wanted to just point that out to everybody. And this Midlife Muscle Mastery 3-day free program, get in there and get inspired, and it's possible and it's necessary as you age. So thank you so much for joining us, Holly. Again, hollyperkins.com/L to sign up for her 3-day free event, which starts September 18th. Anything else you'd like to leave us with before we exit?
No, this was so good. Thank you as always. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, so I hope we do it again.
Yes, we'll need to come on and get like a niche specific on one of these topics and just do a deep dive. But thank you so much. And for everyone else, we'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this show, I would so appreciate you leaving a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about partner discounts on amazing products, visit elleruss.com/discounts.